All right. Well, hello, everybody. It's time for our March meeting. I hope you're here because you're part of the developer group. If not, the door is that away. Welcome. A couple of quick housekeeping things to go through before our main session starts with Moyez, so hold your horses. Today's topic, Health Cloud, what you should know. This is the list of our leaders. If you've got any ideas for what you want to do with this meeting or what you think people would like to see or what you'd like to see more of, please feel free to reach out to Moyez, Ame, or myself. Always happy to hear new ideas, always happy to have participants. We try to keep everything dev and tech focused, but that's usually the only criteria. Please take a moment to hop on the Twitter stream with us. This is a passion of mine, so please give it a try, whip out the phones and hit the QR code and tag everybody out there that you know and get more people involved. It's good to see a nice crowd today, 11 people. That's about what we've been averaging, so pretty good. Had some good registrations this month.
I'm doing it
we
right
are already
now.
recording. What's that on me?
I'm just doing it right now to scan it and see if I can post it. That's pretty cool, Paul.
Did it work? I'll give it a try too.
Oh, I'm doing it. You can't stop me.
Oh, mine didn't work on my phone. I'm sorry. Usually I have a pre-built tweet that happens with those. Makes it easy. Did yours work?
Mine got a blank one, but I'm going to get creative and make my own.
Exactly.
Okay.
I'm doing the same thing.
Here, let me see if I can doggone it. Sorry, my one-trick pony didn't do its trick. It's here. I must have broken something. All right, pay no attention to the man behind the curtain. All right. Well, anyway, let's pretend like this is going really well. All right, so we're usually looking for stack champions. We still have a couple of slots to fill. I haven't seen Boris in a while, so I may try and get somebody else to help out with flows. That's usually one that people have no trouble leaning into and finding good content for us. I do integrations. We've got Nathan Shulman here as our LWC and server side. Waqaz is not able to make it tonight. He usually does our Apex security stuff. And then any news that you've got, we look forward to hearing it. And please contribute, send it to us. I'm happy to broadcast it. If you've got meetings or events, that too. Let's see. Yes.
Paul, really quickly, if you can go back to the last slide, I just want to call a little bit more and pile on some more on what you said. So we do have that open role for in-platform dev, and basically what that means is you're not on point on building any sessions. All you got to do is just point us in a direction saying, hey, this is something that people would like to know, or this is something that is pretty cool that is happening. So let's explore that, and we will all kind of team up together to find a good speaker and a build session around that. So just want to call that out. So if you are really interested in this, just reach out to any of us, and then we can go from there.
Yeah, thank you. No, great call out. I haven't given that explanation in a while. And here, this is what I need to paste. I don't think I'm going to be able to do it while I'm presenting. I'll paste this in a second. So if you're looking for a job or want to introduce yourself, please feel free to do so over chat. The workflow to flow migration tool is in beta. So if you've got workflows to move, you don't have to do it all by hand. There's a tool coming out to help with that. But you still, we're right at the 1 year countdown until workflows and process builders are deprecated. Megan asked, there is a Slack for Salesforce hands-on workshop that the Seattle Women in Tech group is putting on. So if anybody's interested in that, I will put that in there, and it should be virtual. Southeast Dreamin' is coming up, as well as Florida Dreamin'. And Adam Olshansky and I have been partnering together on a intro to dev concepts series called Dev Up. My rebrand may be coming on that, but we put out that second session on SOQL and SQL. So that's out there, and I will put that in chat as soon as the session starts. And that's what I was talking about there.
One more
Update on
thing.
sorry, hey,
So
mate, go
sorry,
ahead.
Paul, to jump in there just real quick. So I think if you are planning on attending Thanawalla DX, I think today is the last day to get early bird discount, if I'm not wrong. So if you're planning on, if you're thinking about it, please go ahead and check it out and claim that discount.
Gotcha. Yeah, I think in Trailhead DX, it looks like it overlaps with our April meeting. So April meeting should be good. The infamous Steve Mollis will be on there. So we'll have that. Hopefully Moyez can give us a cameo, and Ame as well if he gets to go remotely. But yeah, Moyez, you want to talk about the UTD case competition?
Yes, thank you very much, Paul. So everyone, I'd like you to kind of be aware of one of the new things that we're doing this year. If you've been with us for a few years, you know that each year we try and do a charity stand-up. Salesforce provides a charity free licenses, Salesforce licenses, and then we come together as a kind of a team to stand up an application or an org for a nonprofit. Over the years, we've done, I think, 5 or 6 of them. And then over the course of COVID, of course, we didn't do any. So coming back out of COVID, we're doing the same thing, but with a little bit of a twist. We've teamed up with UTD and the UTD student chapter of Salesforce and with Salesforce to run a competition for the next 2 weeks. It's open to students. We've got about 130 students competing for a $5,000 prize. And they break themselves into teams, and then there are 5 use cases that they need to solution around. So our client, our charity that we selected, one that we've worked with in the past, the God's Child Project, asked us to do a number of things. We broke those down into 5 use cases, and the competition started earlier this week. So it's just getting started. Overall, there are about 30 teams, and we've got 15 mentors. So we desperately need more team mentors. If you'd like to volunteer, your commitment will be basically over the course of the next 2 weeks. And it's not a lot. We're asking for a couple of hours each week. And there is a URL to the sign up sheet. Please, if you would, sign up tonight. I think tonight is basically the last night that we can take on mentors. And I'm happy to bring you up to speed on what you missed, but we desperately need some mentors for the UTD competition. It's got national spotlight. This is the first time ever that Salesforce has embarked on this type of an effort. And it's the first time that Salesforce and a user group and a student group have come together to run this type of event. So it's got a little bit of national attention. I hope you decide that you can spare a few hours over the course of the next 2 weeks. Paul, do you have that URL? I know I've got it somewhere and I can find it, but if somebody has it handy, please put it in the chat. Put it in chat. It's the sign
Yeah,
up.
I think you made me a collaborator on the sign up sheet, but I couldn't pull it. I tried to volunteer, but I couldn't because
Okay.
because of the
I
rights.
can post a link.
Thank you.
Thanks, Ame.
Sure.
And I'm happy to answer questions quickly about that, or you can hit me up offline, either way.
Great. Okay. Well, if Isabel lets me continue, which it looks like she may not. Megan is upside down underwater in work, but she sent over the Women in Tech Slack Salesforce meeting opportunity. The link for the sign up for UTD is now in the chat. Megan hasn't the other Megan hasn't made an appearance here yet either. No code sec from Moyez this month. He sent his apologies. He's working on a release tonight. And the regular Moyez minute. Moyez, do you have any other news outside of the news and the presentation that you're wanting to give?
Just wanted to let everyone know that Salesforce is once again ramping up their renewals. You better be watching your emails. Over COVID, they had kind of relaxed you needing to renew your certs, but they're now beginning to crack down. So if you haven't seen your cert renewal coming through the mail, go look at your Trailblazer profile, make sure that you're staying current. I know that one hit me upside the head, and I have to go get 6 exams or 8 exams done, I think, in the next 1 week. So watch out for that.
Yeah. Okay, I'll check the time. Mine said due, but I didn't see what date they were due. All right, for our next month's session, like I said, we've got a star-studded lineup. Moyez capping it off. We're starting it off tonight. Advanced formulas with Steve Mollis, Lightning Web Runtime with Stefan Chandler Garcia. And in April, we are going to try and go back in person. So I'm trying to figure out our room. So as soon as we get response from UTD, we'll send out that invite and see about seeing everybody back face to face finally. We will continue. I will try, and I would love some volunteers that are going to attend to help me get the teams set up so that we can stay hybrid. So even though we're in person, I still intend to bring the Zoom audience in until my license expires or whichever comes first. But we will try to continue to do that. I want people to be able to come and join us from out of town, and so we'll try and get that telepresence going there. Yes, you can come too. Sorry. And then, yeah, security and permissions. We've got a custom session that Amit Chowdhury of Apex Hours fame is going to be giving to us. I asked him about, if I'm a developer, how do I know that the security of the org that I'm doing dev in is up to snuff? I've come in where there have been some rookie orgs and I've been expected to do dev. And if it's dev around sensitive information, there's not a good process in place. It'll be your code that exposes everything because of bad practice. So that should be a really good session. And then CPQ development with Sunil Anam, who's a veteran member of the user group. So should be a good up and coming set of events. All right, Moyez, I am ready to turn it over to you, sir.
Awesome. Thank you, Paul. Can we record this session?
It is currently recording. I started recording while you were away.
Oh, I didn't know that. Okay, thank you very much. Let me go ahead and share my screen. And before I start sharing, let's see, minimize that. Okay, so go all the way to the beginning. Sarah's already making fun of me. I am new to the Mac, guys. I've been a Windows guy my whole life. And prior to that, I was a DOS guy. But I live in a house full of women, and they're all Mac people. So I had to give in and switch over to a Mac. And I tell you that my personality has taken a very, very horrible turn since I did that. Those of you who have made the transition know what I'm talking about. So if I fumble today, it's entirely my fault. So please forgive me. What Sarah and I are going to talk about today, guys, is the Salesforce Health Cloud. And when we started looking at the Health Cloud, I think a year and a half ago, what we saw was a lot of hype, a lot of marketing um, literature, kind of overwhelming us. So we kept asking ourselves, yes, but what is it, right? What is it that it does? We understand how it's going to make our life easier, but what is it? And so when we started at Thanawalla Digital, we started implementing the health cloud. We started being brought in by a number of companies to fix issues that other implementers had perhaps taken a wrong turn on. And so we decided that we'd kind of do a session on, what is health cloud from a developer's perspective, and what do you need to watch out for? What can you do wrong if you accidentally hit the wrong button? So that's kind of what we're going to talk about today. And alongside me, I've got the beautiful Sara. You'll notice that the last name is the same as mine. She is my daughter, and this is the first time that we're doing a presentation together. So welcome, Sara. I'm glad that you are doing this with me. We're among friends. Do you want to say hi?
Hi, everyone. For those of you that don't know me, my name is Sara Thanawalla. Like my dad said, I am his daughter. A little bit about me. I just finished my biology and neuroscience undergrad at UTD. I am currently an MBA candidate. I'm in my second or third semester of MBA. I am currently studying for the MCAT right now, but I'm also working as a medical assistant at North Texas Institute of Neurology and Headache.
Yay. So that's Sara. And Sara, this is the first time that Salesforce has really interested you because it's health, right?
Yes, very much
so.
So
Normally what ends up happening is when Sara looks over my shoulder, she makes an ugly face and walks out of the room because she sees code on the screen. But when we started talking about Health Cloud, we found some common ground. Those of you who don't know me, I'm Moyez Thanawalla. I've been around this business now, I think, for 12 years, and I enjoy the platform. It's provided well for me and my family. And I run a consultancy out of Dallas called Thanawalla Digital, and we engineer systems mainly for large corporations. So happy to have you here, and thanks for inviting us to do this presentation. So let's start a little bit with the terminology. Sara, I get really confused. EHR, EMR, HL7. First of all, what's an EHR? I keep hearing different things about that. What's an EHR?
So basically what an EHR is, an electronic health record. So all you need to know about that is it is the patient's entire medical history. So it's that big stack of files that you would normally see whenever you go to a doctor's office and they pull out that big stack for you.
Okay.
And then basically, then you have an EMR, which is an electronic medical record.
Okay.
That is specific to each visit, and it is individualized for each appointment that you go to.
Okay. So the lingo is this, that EHR and EMR, even though they're conflated many times, right? They're two distinct things. The EHR is the health record.
Yes.
The EMR is transactional. It's the thing, what happened from the time I stepped into the doctor's office to the time I stepped out.
Exactly.
Okay,
Yes.
very cool. And so that's true, right? This industry has evolved, and there is the HL7 standards body. National, international, it's an international body.
It is an international.
And what are they
body.
trying to do?
So basically what they're trying to do is they're trying to have a set of standards, formats, and definitions, and that's all responsible for exchanging and developing the individual EHRs.
So this is the standards body,
Yes.
right? Or the standard spec,
Yes.
right? And HL7 didn't just come into being. We kind of iterated into I think they're on version 4 now, or Rev 4.
Yes.
And Rev 4 is significantly different than the old revision. And so that's something that our developers need to be concerned about, because both packages are available inside of Salesforce. And if you download the wrong one, well, then you're stuck with the old system, right?
Right.
So guys, what happens right now, when you go to install this package, Salesforce warns you that, hey, we've deprecated the old health record, the EHR system, and don't download it. But be careful when you have to go in and do some cleanup work for a brown org, you might find the old platform installed, the old App Exchange product installed. And we'll talk about that in a minute. Okay, so there's EHR, and there is the Salesforce approach to EHR, right? So how did Salesforce do this? Did they, I mean, I guess they took a US-centric approach to health records, right?
Yes.
But not entirely, right? I can still use EHR in other parts of the world, but there's some parts that are specific to the US.
Exactly.
Okay. So what is that delineation, right?
So basically you have the 3 different modes that you can download the medical cloud in, right?
Okay.
And that's something that you're going to get into a little bit
We
more.
will talk about that.
Right.
Mhm.
And so you definitely have a different subset for each individual party.
Yeah.
So if you are part of the insurance company, you're going to be in your own little subset. If you
Right.
are the primary care or the doctor, the physician, you're going to be in a different subset.
The provider.
And then, you know, if you're part of medical technology and you're selling to the providers, you're going to be in your own subset.
Right. And so really there's 3 different approaches to the installation of health records.
Yes.
And we find, at least I find, that that's usually done wrong, right? So if a company hasn't installed this package, they tend to go with, oh, gee, this is the standard package, and they end up installing the provider package or the provider configuration.
Yes.
And that may not be what they're working with. They might be working with the payer,
Exactly.
right? Or with health sciences, right? And so this, actually, I've encountered that, right? I've encountered that twice before. So the Salesforce approach is that there are different configurations for providers, for health sciences companies, and for payers.
Yes.
Right. So we want to make sure we understand that. It's centric to the US market in from the point of view of the not the provider, but the payer.
Yes.
Right. So the package that Salesforce puts out is, at least for the payer, is specific to how the US runs the payer system, multi-payer.
Yeah.
In Canada, Great Britain, other parts of the world where they have single payer, the payer system doesn't really work as well as it does in the US. However, for the provider, you can still install this package anywhere in the world and it works really well because it is HL7 compliant.
Yes.
Did I say that right?
Yes, you did. Yes.
All right. So the other thing, guys, is that it does require the Sales Cloud, Service Cloud, Unlimited or Enterprise Edition. And really, for those of us who do this day in and day out, all the Health Cloud package is an installed package, right? You still have your standard platform, you install the managed package from the App Exchange, and off you go, right? Okay, cool. Any questions so far, guys? All right. So Sarah talked a little bit about the org types. There's an org type for insurance orgs, for provider orgs, and for life sciences organizations. And we'll delve into that a little bit in just a couple of minutes. But I did want you to understand that when you start your installation, understand first, what's the centricity? What are you centric? Are you life sciences centric? Life sciences are really those companies that provide, they're the pharmaceutical companies, they're the supplier of medical equipment that goes into the patient's home. We're working right now with a life sciences company that provides a product for the heart, right? It's a monitoring device
Yes.
that patients wear all the time. And the Sales Cloud product, its idea is that we can accumulate data in real time from the machine that the patient is wearing,
Yes.
and be proactive about taking corrective measures.
Exactly.
And you'll see in a moment that one of the key issues here is in real time, we can look for anomalies with our data that's coming back. And that's part of the Einstein AI engine. Really cool stuff. So let's start quickly by talking about functionality for providers. Most of what you guys will be installing will be provider functionalities. You'll be installing Salesforce at hospitals and clinics, doctors' offices. That's the vast majority of Health Cloud instances that are being installed. They're not the largest. The largest are probably the pharmaceuticals.
Of course.
But from a provider perspective, what's important? What does Salesforce do for me if I'm a provider? What's the centricity there?
I would say the two big things that Health Cloud provides is efficiency and clarity.
Okay.
So what Health Cloud provides that we don't necessarily have right now is the ability for multiple providers to interact with one another on the same page.
Okay.
So there's no miscommunication, there's none of this transferring records from one physician to another. Right now, one of the biggest problems for our office specifically is, we're hiring a bunch of medical assistants right now, and they all have to be trained. Well, there's all these little intricacies that occur with sending off referrals, making sure that all the patient records get to where they need to go, ordering labs, all that fun stuff. And Medical Cloud takes away all that ambiguity, and it basically makes it nice and concise. And so that way the provider, all they have to do is click on one little button, which I think you're going to show for how to do a referral.
Yeah.
And it streamlines the whole process.
Right. Now, for those of us who are developers,
yes,
the way that Salesforce does this is through the Lightning Console, right? So it's kind of new terminology, for you,
for me,
but these guys already know what I'm talking about. So it's really cool because the console, the Lightning Console, is a multi-record view that is centric to one record, right? So in this case, what Salesforce has done is it's taken the patient EHR record, right? That one core, the patient record. And on the same page, we're able to show his relationship to his family, his relationship to other providers, his relationship to the payers and the history there, right? So all of that is centric on one screen, and we do it using the Lightning Console. Now, what they've layered on top of that is they've got the console, but they've also written a couple of custom components. And I'll show that. One of the coolest ones is the relationship of the patient to his family members, right? So it's a custom component inside of the console itself. Really cool stuff. So we do get to see in one screen kind of all the interactions that are happening to this patient, and all our providers and team members basically see the same screen. So in your office, for instance, after they've checked in, you can see on that screen what the status is of that patient as he's going through your system.
Exactly.
Very cool. Very cool. Okay, so the other view of this, same product, kind of the same the App Exchange package, but a different configuration of the App Exchange package is the payer point of view, right? Different objects come into play and they're exposed in different ways, right? So for the payer, We use the claims data model, right? So different objects come into play, different tables,
Yeah.
different objects come into play. And we also have this concept, Sarah, of external objects, right? So it's really cool because what ends up happening with external objects is that I can expose data to you that resides on my platform, whether I'm Salesforce or not. If you're Salesforce, you view that data, in this case, the payer data, as if it's native to Salesforce, right?
Yeah.
So Salesforce has leveraged a system called external objects, right? Which uses the OData methodology. Paul knows a lot about that. He'll give us a master class in OData here in a minute.
Sounds like a plan.
But what it lets us do is it lets us view external data as if it's our own. And Salesforce has done that brilliantly, both for the payer systems and for the provider system. So the payers get to see the provider data, the doctor's data, the health data, as if it's sitting inside their own Salesforce org, as if it's sitting inside the payer's Salesforce org, right? They can query it, they can quite literally filter it and do those types of things directly in their own Salesforce org. The data never exists inside their org, it exists in the provider's org. Vice versa, right? The provider gets to see the insurance claims associated with a particular patient record.
Yes.
And it's exposed on their Lightning console. So they're seeing all their health claims on the same page. That data doesn't exist here anyway. It exists on the payer platform.
Right.
Those two talk to each other. Now, the other beautiful thing about this is the payer system doesn't have to be Salesforce. It can be something else. The provider still sees it in this native kind of manner, all because of the external object capability. So that's another cool thing that Health Cloud allows us to do. It really comes into play for when we've got a payer system.
Yes.
Right, okay. And so this is, again, external systems can have a very large amount of data. We only bring in the filtered list, right? And they do this using something they call the claims data model, uses external objects. If you guys have worked with external objects, you'll understand my excitement around external objects. If you haven't, I urge you to look at it and see exactly what that product does. It's spectacular. Let me pause here for a moment. Any questions? Take a look at chat and see if anybody's asking questions.
Do you want questions, Moyez, or you want to save them for the end?
Either way is fine. I'm totally informal in however, if somebody feels like there's a question they'd like to ask, I'm happy to pause to answer questions.
I've got a couple of quick ones. I haven't seen any others come through the chat, but
okay.
So just to be clear, the claims is insurance claims. It's not like the claims authentication protocol at all. It's completely unrelated. It's more about medical data, correct?
That is correct. Yes, claims data, the way that Sara would talk about claims data.
Okay. And then, so Health Cloud an add-on for the additions of Salesforce, or does it kind of start out as being its own discrete set of functionality that you buy into? Well,
so there's a couple of ways of doing this. Technically, it is an app exchange download, right? That's the simplest way of looking at it. The starter pack that I think is quite elegant, if you've got a new practice that you're starting, they have a kind of, what do they call it? Not an accelerator, but a trial org that comes pre-configured. Doesn't come pre-configured for payers, it comes pre-configured for providers. So that's another way of getting it, right? Get the trial org and then convert it to a paid org. And you can just Google Health Cloud trial org, and it'll give you 30 days free. And I'll show you one of those right now. Well, in a couple of minutes, when we get to the demo, I'll show you kind of what that looks like. So 2 different ways of getting it, but essentially what it is a download from the App Exchange. It's an App Exchange package. Some of the modules are managed packages and others are unmanaged packages.
Thanks.
Okay, cool.
One quick question. Is there a license fee for this, or how does it work?
There is. I don't know what the license fee is, but it is absolutely a paid package.
Okay.
But I don't know what that dollar amount is, to be frank with you. I had it in mind to kind of dig around before our meeting, but I just flat out ran out of time.
Okay, thank you.
All right. All right, and then of course for life sciences is kind of that third leg, which I think is the most interesting part of Health Cloud, which is pharmaceuticals and medical equipment suppliers, because it brings into play not just Health Cloud, but the entire supply chain, right? Many of these companies have warehouses that need to be managed, distributed warehouses, right? If you've got a medical device that needs to be close to a patient, that means that you've got a warehouse, you've got inventory that's distributed nationwide.
Yes.
Here is where Salesforce's standard platform begins to play a significant role, right? So if you've got a seasoned team that's implementing this, they understand that as these devices come off the production line, right, they have a serial number, and you put them through the Salesforce asset process, right? They live in the asset object. They have serial numbers associated with them. They have lookups to the product table. All of that is part of the standard Salesforce platform. The excellent thing about that is that once you've got it in the asset object, you can distribute it to warehouses. You can keep track of inventory. All of this is outside, well, I shouldn't say outside of the health package, because it actually looks like it's part of Health Cloud,
Right.
but it's standard Salesforce functionality, right? Assets in the field. And you can track things like failure in the field. If you start seeing random failures of your medical device, you can go right back to the database and ask the question of your asset list, hey, what are the commonalities between these failures? Did they have the same production date, right?
Yeah.
Do they use the same capacitors maybe, right? Do they
Yeah.
use the same subsystems?
Yeah.
And you can identify those things very, very quickly. You can manage the life cycle of those products. So you bring them in for service or for refurbishment. How long has it been in service? How many times has it been recalled for break fix, those types of things? And when do you want to retire that product? So you can manage the entire life cycle of the products that you are supplying. One of the other challenges that life sciences companies have, it's the dark secret, is that one salesperson or one sales rep is walking out of a doctor's office when another one's walking in.
Oh, yes.
And it happens, they work for the same company selling different products.
Exactly.
And they don't know that they're kind of doing that, and that looks bad for the company.
Oh,
Well,
yes.
inside of a CRM product, well, then now we can manage our sales agents as well. So life sciences use a combination of the features that we will see in a moment, the objects that are specific to Health Cloud, but they also leverage calendars, events for specific folks, and make sure that there aren't any of those overlaps. Yeah, that's a really cool thing. And the remote monitoring, I think, is a brilliant idea. So let me, guys, I'm going to kind of, your eyes might glaze over here, but I do want to talk to you about a couple of documents that you should review before you install the Health Cloud product. Let me see. Escape. No, escape doesn't work like it should. So bear with me. Okay, so here's the first document that I think is very important, right? It is the admin guide. This is not really the deep dive that our group will be working with, but it does give you a great overview of the Health Cloud and talks a little bit about installing the package and what have you. And you can get this, best way of getting to this is just to Google Salesforce Health Cloud Admin Guide. And it's a fairly detailed analysis of how you should install it and a brief overview. It's a detailed installation guide, but it's only brief. It only briefly goes into how you should configure it. The better document, albeit a little bit more kind of arcane, is the developer's guide. And that, again, I'll come back to show you. Where is my developer's guide? Let me just open it. Back in the old days, Sarah, we used to print these out. So the data model is one worth looking at and studying, because the data models will be different depending on which group you're installing for. So for instance, let me go to I think it's the program management. Right. So the program management, let me double click on here, gives you a good overview. If I do this, will it zoom for them or is it just zooming for me?
I'm not 100% sure on that.
All right, so hopefully this zoomed for you as well. You see, guys, what they're doing is they're using the lead, user, campaign, budget, expenses, a number of the objects that we use are standard. They're standard objects here. However, what they've done with the installed package is they come in and they drop in specific items. For instance, for the user comes in. The reason a patient can also be a user is because we give them portal access. One of the features of the cloud, the Health Cloud, is that you've got a patient portal, and it uses a standard Salesforce digital experience portal, right?
Yes.
Except now it looks like a patient portal. In Salesforce, what ends up happening is we end up creating a special type of a user for that, right? And so the care team now has a relationship with that user, and so the Health Cloud creates a relationship with their own records in there. The other thing that gets a little bit complex, which is similar, we set up junction objects because we leverage the case object as well, right? So healthcare cases or healthcare events are handled as cases inside of the Health Cloud.
Okay.
Now, specifically what the Health Cloud installation for providers does is if you install the correct package, it installs the objects that are necessary for that type of functionality. And that's why it's important that we get the right configuration installed.
Yes.
And again, standard account contact relationship. I have heard, and I'm not happy about this, I have heard that Salesforce is recommending the person account view of accounts and contacts for Health Cloud. This has been a big debate since the founding of Salesforce, right? They came up with this concept of person accounts, and then person accounts can't do half the things that regular accounts can do, but they connect accounts and contacts behind the scenes. It's still 2 records, but
Yes.
okay, so great functionality, but huge. It can't do this, right?
Of
It can't do
course,
that, right?
Of course.
And so for the longest time, we thought, the industry thought, all these guys thought, that person accounts were more or less going to be deprecated at some point. Since 2019, I've been hearing that for the healthcare industry, person accounts are the recommended approach to how you handle your account contact, your patient information. So I don't know if anybody out there knows whether that's true or not. If you do, let me know, raise your hand, do something like that. So I'm not going to go too far into detail, but what you can do, for instance, is each one of these will give you great detail about both the object fields as well as the methods that we have ability to execute on these objects. So we are all familiar with how this view of Salesforce Help works, and Health Cloud is no different. Quite detailed, but well worth reading. Good stuff before you start your implementation.
Do you want to take a look at the chat real quick?
Yes, let me quickly see what we're chatting about. So yes, Fernando says that in fact, person accounts are the way to go for Health Cloud. At least that's the recommended way to go. I think I'll scold them when I'm in San Francisco next month. Right?
You do that. You do that.
Yeah, and Paul says it's still considered a curse word on Ohana Slack, and I'm right there alongside him. All right, thank you, Fernando. I appreciate that feedback. And I appreciate the feedback, Paul, as well. So let's quickly, let's kind of go on to the next item here that I wanted to show you. How are we doing on time? It is 7:23. Paul, are we okay on time, sir? I'll assume that
You were golden. Yep.
okay, cool. Let's talk a little bit about security elements. Paul knows and Wakas knows that I have become obsessed with Salesforce security in the last 45 days, and there's a reason for that. We all hope that security won't come back to bite us, but sometimes it does. In my case, I'm beginning to understand the brevity of having security really tightened at the start of a project. And Health Cloud does that natively, right? One of the key elements that they've implemented, other than the standard Salesforce security where we have profiles and roles and that locks down security. The other thing that we've got that goes along with that is data at rest. So Salesforce Shield comes prepackaged with this product, right? Yes. Good stuff. Salesforce Shield makes sure that data that is persisted to the hard drives that Salesforce has, under Mark Benioff's desk, right? He's got the little tower. That data is encrypted, right? Yes. Now, when we're talking to doctors who don't fully understand what that means,
or right? Even patients,
or sometimes patients, right? Patients are concerned that, hey, if you keep my health data on a thumb drive, and your dog runs it out into the street and somebody picks it up, and they're worried about those types of things. Yes. Well, this ensures that even if a bad actor gets that data somehow, right? We don't put things on our thumb drive at Salesforce, but even if that happens, that data is mangled. There's no way that anybody can can access it, right?
Yes.
Technically, the technical part of that, it's 256-bit encryption, and the sysadmin controls the key. The key is rotated every 6 months, right? So there's kind of a method to keeping this data safe.
Exactly.
Even when you're sharing that data, for instance, with a payer, remember, they're just looking into your system using external objects, right? They have a read view, but they can't actually change the data. So from a security standpoint, it's pretty elegant.
Yeah.
The other thing is they don't get to see everything. They only get to see those fields that you've given them access to.
Right.
So Health Cloud kind of takes a next step, and it makes Shield available as part of the package. You're not paying extra for it. The rest of us, we have to pay for it, but Health Cloud doesn't. All right. So we talked about data encryption at rest with Shield. The Health Cloud clinical model is available to users who have access. Again, this is done through permission sets. That's really elegant, the way that Salesforce has chosen to give permissions is they've embraced permission sets. Now, that's something that's available to the rest of us as well, non-doctors, but to the medical community, to the Health Cloud community, this is how they've kind of made it their best practice, that permissions are given out by permission sets. And the guys who are implementing this know what I'm talking about, but it's a really elegant way of using a fine scalpel to determine who sees and does what, right? It's permission set based.
I see what you did there.
Of course, it's FHIR standard. So everything that we're doing right now in Salesforce, our patients can be assured that the FHIR standards, the HL7 standards are being met, and that we will continue doing that. Audit trails. Oh my God, we hate audit trails, but they're very necessary, right? Salesforce has certain fields inside of their records called audit fields, appropriately enough, that I keep using the word immutable. They're not immutable, but they're immutable by us, right? We can't change them, we can't destroy them, we can't update them. These are fields that Salesforce utilizes to actually kind of secure transactions. That has been expanded in the Health Cloud, right? So there's more audit trail items that are secured and essentially immutable by us, right? Okay. So this is kind of that same level of security that the banking system has, right? Yes. Where you can't just delete a record. You have to do a negative transaction, so the trail remains. They've brought that to Health Cloud as well. So the audit trail is quite extensive. Household data. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, you have two questions. One from me, but Brian Himes asked, his understanding has been that Shield is optional for Health Cloud, and Health Cloud without Shield can still be HIPAA compliant as long as the BAA is in place. Do you happen to know if that's correct?
That's news to me. My understanding from my conversations is that it is a part and parcel of the Health Cloud, but I may stand corrected if you know better. I don't know that that's optional. I don't think it's just a part. I think it's part and parcel, but I will absolutely report back to this group next month and let you know.
And then you talked about audit trails. Have you looked into the mechanics of the audit trails? There's a lot of audit trails that aren't queryable, that might need to have forensic, and they're immutable records. But have they changed the way that you can interact with standard audit trails, or is this a different audit trail using different functionality?
It's an extended audit trail. So our standard audit fields behave the same way as you and I know them to behave, but they've extended that capability to other transactions as well. I haven't heard that sysadmins don't have access to those audit trails. My understanding is that that is based upon permission sets, just the way you and I know them to be. And they're only viewable, they're not editable.
Okay.
Okay.
Thanks.
All right. So the other thing that the Health Cloud does for us out of the box is household data aggregation. And I'll show that to you in a minute. So you know commonalities between siblings, between spouses, those types of things. Don't confuse that with making the data available to other family members. That's not what this is, but to the provider, and with certain permissions to the payer,
Yes.
they can see familial relationships. And that capability and the restrictions around those are built into Health Cloud. Yeah. And then the off-platform organic storage using the OData methodology that we talked about. Actually, let me correct that. This is in addition to OData. What I meant by this is right now, when we upload files to Salesforce, right, and attach them to a record, that outside of Health Cloud, that data is stored in Salesforce. That PDF is stored in Salesforce, right? And there are a handful of App Exchange packages that allow you to do off-site storage. It's called Files Connect, right? So you can store that data, let's say, in a secure data bank, but it's still connected to the record in a very easy way, on a point and click manner, right? So that functionality, the ability to do that, Salesforce hasn't released to the rest of us as part of Sales Cloud, Service Cloud. But the Health Cloud package allows that as an unmanaged package to be downloaded and installed free. So you can essentially take patient records that you would normally have to pay Salesforce to store inside of Salesforce, and use an on-prem storage or a secure cloud storage to store that. The important thing here is Salesforce storage, like PDFs, things like that, is very expensive. I mean,
Oh, yes.
horribly expensive. And so when you start getting large number of PDFs that need to be archived or stored, you need a solution that allows you to.
Exactly.
That is a native functionality of Health Cloud. It's not technically native, but you can download the unmanaged package free of charge for this cloud.
Perfect.
I know this because I actually had an argument with Salesforce about this. If it's unmanaged and it's free, why can't you and it works on the Sales Cloud, Service Cloud, why don't you just give it to us, right? So we can use it. Okay, they said no. And I said, notice that all of this is standard Salesforce functionality. And that's true. The way we aggregate data, junction objects, data encryption, these are all standard Salesforce. So it's tried and true. It's not something that just came around last week, right? All right, let me kind of move through this a little bit faster. We talked about the fact, Sarah, that there is the legacy EHR product,
Yes.
right? And there's the new clinical model product, which is LH7 Rev 4 compliant.
Right.
You should be downloading that one.
Exactly.
Okay,
Yes.
good. Which one should you be downloading?
The newest version.
Well, not just the newest version, the clinical
The-
data model version.
Exactly.
Okay.
Version 4.
Okay, so I've been talking a long time. We've been talking a long time, and I'll blame you for some of it.
Oh, thank you. Very kind.
So let's kind of look at what that looks like in a production org. And I'll share some of these URLs with you after the meeting. So
If you click on more,
yeah, can I make this disappear?
you should be able to.
Minimize this. Okay, it's not going to work. I'm just going to live with it. Okay. I have a new computer, guys. Okay, so you will notice if everyone on this call is a developer or an admin, you will notice that this looks exactly like our Salesforce does, right? It's no different. But when you go to the main screen, what you're seeing here is a lightning console view of this patient, the person account, Mr. Charles Green. Right? And what Salesforce does essentially is give you views into other objects natively directly inside of the person account. Now, as a doctor or a provider, this is the provider view. That's what I installed on this org. From the provider view, I can do a number of things directly from here. I can look at that person's care plan, Charles Green's care plan. I can have a view of his household account. This component in here, you will notice, is a lightning component. And with one view, again, this is for us who've worked in Salesforce. There's no huge technology here. This is just console view, right?
Yes.
But for a provider, this is kind of a really cool way of looking at a patient record.
Yes.
You know your Charles Green here. Here's all your contacts. I went to contacts and I clicked on Charles Green, and let me see if they've populated any of these other ones. Let's look at. So now I've got Charles Green here, and I've got Gayatri over here. So you can have a number of patients across the top. Charles Green, of course, when you click him, you get all these sub menus. And the cool thing about this is I get to see the care plan of household members in the PCP.
Yes.
The primary care physicians, those types of things directly off of the screen. Similarly with a timeline of events that we've done with this patient. So that's kind of how that works. They have another functionality for provider search. Once we've connected our partner providers in here, you can do things like, I think the one we've got populated here is primary care and surgery. Again, this is a really cool way. It's a little bit different UI than we are used to in Salesforce, the way you select multi-selects. That's kind of cool. I like that. And let's see, let's put in the address of 94105. You can put partial addresses in here, and it does the type ahead. Again, standard Salesforce functionality. And let's say 100 miles here. And then when you hit the search button, it gives you a list of providers that meet your requirement. You're looking for this type of specialist, and you can send off referrals directly from inside of Salesforce.
And you don't even have to check with insurance because there's a field there too.
Right, their insurance providers are selected in here. So we're beginning to sound like marketing people. That's not what I intended. Guys, if you want to play with the App Exchange product, this is available. I installed it this afternoon. It's available as a trial org. Again, if you just Google Health Cloud Trial Org, it's a very straightforward installation, but it is limited. The trial org is limited to the provider perspective. They don't have a similar thing that I know of for payers and for life sciences either. So guys, most of you will recognize the look and feel, but what I wanted to go over today is just a brief overview of what are you getting when you install Health Cloud, how are the connections made to external providers, Salesforce or otherwise, again, through OData. Those of you who are doing integration, you'll ask the question, well, not every other provider has OData. So MuleSoft has a health cloud plugin as well, right, which essentially allows us to consume data into MuleSoft in OData and then expose it into one of, using the API of various published systems. So that's available. I'm not going to go into the MuleSoft component today. So that's kind of it, right?
Yeah.
Kind of a little bit techie, a little bit 50,000 foot overview. So any questions? Sarah and I will take questions if you've got them.
I think we got some
Oh, we
in the
got 3.
chat.
Yay, okay. Yes, the question is the search result based on a skill? I think, it is based on a specialty. If you look at the specialty, we have the ability to select a number of different specialists. And of course, this list can be expanded to meet our needs. But yeah, there is this sort of thing. And then we have subspecialties within that as well. So yep, just exactly how you would expect it to work is how that operates.
Gotcha. Thank you, Moyez.
Yeah, thanks for the comment, Ishrath. Appreciate it.
Is the patient portal part or license similarly, or have you looked at the licensing for the patient portal compared to communities?
So I don't know how they're charging for, excuse me, just a moment. I don't know how they're charging for the patient portal. My understanding, my kind of very brief assumption on that is that they're charging for it in a similar way that they charge us, for authenticated logins. So authenticated logins are charged in 2 different ways. You can either buy them by the bulk minutes. I need 1 million minutes of logins. It doesn't matter how many people are logged in, or by the dedicated user. I want unlimited time for 1,000 users. So there's 2 different pricing models that they offer. My thinking is that it's the same for Health Cloud. They price it the same way, but I may be mistaken, Paul.
Okay.
They don't share pricing information with me. I'll beat it out of someone then.
Gotcha. Thanks.
All right, guys. That's kind of what we wanted to show you today.
Thank you for that, Moyez. And Sara, thank you. Anybody else
This is
have any
very cool.
questions?
Thank you, guys.
Very cool.
Okay, we'll hang around. If you've got questions, just pop them in the chat and we'll be happy to answer them. Thank you, Cindy. Back to you, Paul.
That's great. Yeah, no, timeline component. Let's see, there's a question. Does anyone know of a solution to calculate pay for physicians and nurses? Yeah, it's either arm, leg, or both, right?
Yes. I haven't seen one. I don't, Fernando, I don't know if there is a provider like on the App Exchange that's doing that. It's a standard payroll functionality, I would imagine, but I don't know if there's anything specific to the Health Cloud. I do know that there's one App Exchange package that calculates payroll based upon hours worked, because I've used it, but I don't remember the name of it. It wasn't specific to the healthcare industry, but there is one, and it's a native Salesforce product, and I've used it before, so that's why I know it exists. So I would absolutely go to App Exchange and kind of look at what they've got there. Yes, Amey, that's a great question, and we didn't cover it. So Amey's question is, can we tweak some of the functionality using custom metadata or any of the cache type things? That's actually, yes, affirmative on that. A lot of the functionality that they have customized is done on custom metadata types and custom fields. So yes, you will find yourself going into custom metadata types to do your configuration. It's quite, if you've used CPQ, and if you have my sincere apologies. This product is a lot like how configuration on the CPQ package works, right? Where you can add fields, not in the normal way, but you go to a table in the custom metadata type and you configure it there, and it suddenly pops up on the, for instance, the patient record view. What do we call it? The patient card, right? The fields that you see on there and how they appear.
Yes.
That's customized in custom metadata type.
Oh, okay.
Right. So yeah,
That's cool.
I mean, that's absolutely true.
Excellent. Thank you.
All right, that's great. Do you see any of these features that have shown up first in Health Cloud that you think will outlive Health Cloud and move into the regular product?
Well, I'm hoping that Files Connect gets a lot better in the regular package and allows us to do some of these, automatic move a file from Salesforce files to another platform, and all that connection that needs to happen. I'm hoping that they will allow us to do that. It's not a new functionality. We've seen it before. I think I've used it before. We've even programmed that in the absence of App Exchange products, but it's now becoming such a common utility, and Salesforce does have it, and they are providing it to Health Cloud. So I think I'm hoping that we'll see that kind of available to the rest of us soon.
So yeah, Fernando asked what the central object is inside of Health Cloud.
Yeah, what's the centric object, right? So certainly from the provider standpoint, it is the patient record, right? Like the rest of us, we might have busier objects, right? So opportunity might be busier than the account object, but at the center of the universe is the patient person account, and that's true here as well. I do think that the transaction records, there's a bunch of transaction records and junction objects, would be busier than the account object, than the patient object. But I think at the center of the world is the patient object. Busier objects, I think there are some junction objects that will grow quite large, and they'll get extremely, extremely busy. But I think that also depends on kind of the practice that you are. If you're a provider, that's going to be different than if you are a health sciences business, right? So Fernando, great question. Yeah, there's a bunch of those. I expect that this org, a health cloud org, is much busier, and the data grows much, much, much larger than the normal orgs that you and I normally deal with. So let me follow. For example, for field service lightning, the most busy object is work order. Yeah, again, when we get to junction objects, they grow very large, very, very fast, right? And that's exactly the same with providers. Right? Let's think about it, right? When you have a transaction with a patient coming into the office, you're not just updating that record, you're updating transactional records as well. Right?
Yes.
And each one of those transactional records, each patient visit, is going to have diagnosis records. And those diagnosis records in turn may have 1, 2, or more approval, rejection, reconsideration records, so other records that are associated with the payer. So it's very, very likely that one small transaction, a patient visit, would balloon into junction objects and transactional records that are 10, 15 records long for one visit. Yeah. Fernando, I know that was a kind of a glossy answer. I don't know if that's what you were looking for, but yeah, I do see objects getting quite busy. All right, Paul, back to you, sir.
Sorry, I had my mic muted as well, but not Zoom. And I had asked Ame if Financial Services Cloud, you thought the account holder was the primary, the core busy object for FSC2.
Right. I mean, again, as Moyez mentioned, like, there's a similar kind of analogy there. You have personal account, then you have financial accounts, insurance policies. So depending on which flavor of FSC you go with, those junction objects get passed. So there's a junction object called financial account transaction, and that's something to watch out for the larger the volumes when it comes to FSC. So I think Moyez was absolutely right on when it comes to busy objects. The junction objects are the ones primarily shine there.
Yeah, and I really think that the approach that they've taken about letting external records remain external records, right? Using the external objects to integrate to records that have a source of truth somewhere else, right? Our natural inclination is, no, bring it into Salesforce so now I can play with it, right? That's kind of the natural human inclination. But look what happens when you start doing that. A, you're replicating data, right? You're bringing one record from a foreign system here. But B, you can start now getting out of sync. Your record gets updated and the other one doesn't. So by using external objects and recognizing that not all of my health records needs to reside in my primary care physician's database, right? That we can reach it using OData connections. This recognition, I think, is just brilliant. It's the way that architects ought to be thinking, is don't necessarily think that everything has to live in one system of record. Make the delineation, put in the thought that says, this type of data will be mastered in Salesforce, but this other set of data will be mastered somewhere else. And me as an architect, us as architects, that the correct thing to do is to recognize how to fetch the data from the system of record when we need it and update it when is necessary. And if we get comfortable with that type of architecture, then we avoid these problems of, well, I updated it at my end. I don't know why it's not updated at your end, right? Your problem. Salesforce architected Health Cloud from the ground up with this concept in mind. We have a global database, right? I could have had heart surgery in London and then had my appendix removed in Germany, but I live in Miami, right? Well, where are my health records? This approach with HL7 spec allows us to hopefully in the future get to the point where that's all transparent, that there is in fact no wall, no barrier to getting that data out. I'm hoping that's really the world we're going towards.
Yeah, I think the right to forget stuff has driven a lot of that too, where
Mm.
people are asking to be deleted. If you make that information vital to all of the back end systems to where you can't delete it without
Yeah.
breaking your record systems, that's been a big challenge. So it's nice to see somebody's building that framework up to where the parts that you might need to delete are a tiny piece. And if I have stars in this, it doesn't remove all of my records. It doesn't reverse affect all my reports and stuff like that. It just
Yeah.
zeroes out a couple of fields that maybe is in one system. That's smart. Like that.
I mean,
I'm with
it
you.
it does bring its own challenges, right? If one system is the system of truth worldwide for whatever, my heart records are, where did I say, London? Yeah, they're at the hospital in London. That system better not die because everybody else is ODataing into it to get a view. So there are those types of challenges. And do you trust every repository, right? Salesforce or not? Do you trust? So there are some questions that need to be answered. There's absolutely that. But the approach is correct. The approach is absolutely correct because from a privacy standpoint, I don't want to chase down, 20 different databases to erase my record on, one particular item. It would be nice to know, oh, the system of record resides in Berlin for this little thing. So contact them, they'll delete it and everybody's own data access goes away. They're both challenges as well as great promise in the architecture that Salesforce has chosen.
Cool. All right. Thank you. Anybody else have any other questions? All right. Speak now, forever hold your peace. We'll give people another half a second to come off of mute and ask. All right. Well, with nothing else, thank you guys. That was very informative. I really appreciate it. I think people got a lot into it. I had more questions than I thought we would have. So it's great that people are diving into the topic and they're here because they're interested. I have seen, I posted some of your links in the chat, Moyez. I don't know if you wanted to throw any of those others in there in the admin. And then Salesforce had a big announcement last week, and I've heard a lot of internal buzz where I work that Health Cloud is becoming a major industry of note. So check that out. This is definitely a good place to invest some learning in.
Yeah, we're beginning to see a lot of traction around Health Cloud.
That's great. All right. Well, if nobody has anything else, thank you very much. Sarah, good to see you. Moyez, thank you again.
Bye, guys.
Great to see you guys.
Bye, Lars.
Wow.
Ame, anything to close us out too? Nope.
No, thank you so much, Moyez and Sara. This is fantastic. And thank you all for taking time.
Thank you.
All right.
All right.
Good
we'll see you
night.
guys next time.
Bye, guys.
Bye.